Here's what you can do to improve the battery life on OPPO Find X9. So first of all, we're gonna go to settings. Over here, scroll down and let's start with battery settings. If you use high performance mode, then of course the device performance will be increased naturally. However, this also increases the power consumption. So if you don't really need the increased performance at a given moment, it is recommended to switch back to the balanced mode. There's also the power saving mode that allows you to save the battery a little bit. And in this case, you can of course use this feature, especially when you want to get that extra hour or two of battery in case you are about to to lose the phone. I mean, when it's about to completely, if you are about to completely run out of the battery and you don't have a charger at a given moment to charge your phone. So the power saving mode can be quite useful, just as the super power saving mode. Now, besides that, if you scroll down, we can also find the battery health, and in here we have two options that can be quite useful for slowing down the process of battery aging: the smart charging and custom charging limit. Smart charging is useful if you have a charging habit or charging pattern, because then the phone can pick it up, it can learn that charging pattern, so it can stop charging at 80% when you leave your charger for a little bit longer than you should. And then when the phone knows that you will soon unplug the charger, it can start charging to 100% again. But if you don't have a charging pattern, then you can set up the custom charging limit, and you can just straight up use a limit, the percentage limit. So when you are charging, you can only charge up to the selected percentage. Now, I know that it can be a little bit inconvenient because, you are losing, in theory, this extra 20%, for example, of the battery. You cannot really charge to 100%, but this will definitely help you with slowing down the aging process of the battery. Over here, we can also read that you can set a charging limit based on your needs. It's recommended to set the charging limit between 80 and 90% to slow down battery aging. So yeah. And in addition to that, it is also recommended to start charging the battery when it reaches 20% or so. So the ideal spot for a battery is between 20 and 80%. You start charging at 20, you stop at 80, or maybe even 90, as it is written over here. But besides that, we can go to the charging settings, and over here we can find, let's say, the smart rapid charging, which is the fast charging option. And in this case, of course, some people may believe that fast charging causes faster battery aging. So if you believe so, then of course you can just turn it off over here. And besides that, we have wireless charging as well. So for example, if you are the type of person that has a wireless charger and you put your phone on the wireless charger all the time, or most of the time, then what I can recommend you to do is enable quiet charging. And over here we can set up, for example, the wireless charging for the bedtime, so the phone can actually charge wirelessly only during the bedtime. Or you can set a custom time when it should be able to start wirelessly charging, and the wirelessly charge, of course, and when it should end. So yeah, these options are definitely quite important for keeping the battery in a healthy state for as long as possible. But besides that, what you can also do is go to location. Over here we have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth scanning, and you can turn these options off because these features don't have to be enabled all the time, and they can actually drain the battery quite a little bit when they are always on. Maybe it is not really noticeable when it's enabled all the time, and when you turn it off, you might not really spot that much of a difference. But if we sum up everything that I'm also about to show you in this video, then you might actually get an extra maybe an hour or two. Besides that, of course, one of the most important things that you can do is go to display and brightness and make some changes in here as well. For example, the dark mode allows you to save the battery a little bit as well. Generally speaking, dark mode is better for the battery than the light mode, but if you don't want to use the dark mode, if you don't like it that much, you may consider creating a schedule. And, then the dark mode can be enabled and disabled at a given time, for example, at night. Besides that, we have the automatic screen brightness, which is also recommended to use. And then we also have these additional vision engine tools, such as the video color boost and image sharpener, which of course also increase the battery consumption. So if you use these features, you might want to actually turn them off if you want to save the battery a little bit. Of course, screen resolution also has an impact on the consumption of the power. the screen attention option as well. If you keep the screen on for a longer time, naturally it will use more battery. And we also have the refresh rate, which usually it is set to automatic, which is of course fine. And I understand that you want to use 120 Hz all the time because, well, it is just a better experience overall. But since we are talking about optimizing the battery and improving the battery life, I just have to mention that we of course can switch to 60 Hz instead, which will definitely help you conserve the battery as it is described over here. Now, besides that, I'm gonna actually go back to the battery because I think I actually missed one thing. Oh, by the way, we can also of course see the battery usage, so this can be a pretty good indicator of apps that drain the battery. So in this case, it can even be like a wallpaper. If you have like an animated wallpaper, this of course also increases the battery consumption. But if you have any of apps that have increased the battery consumption, then you can do something about it. You can, for example, disable background usage and so on and so forth. So for example, over here, we can even force a stop in the app. I'm going to show you in a second how to manage the battery consumption. There we go. Over here in power saving settings, we can scroll down and go to app battery management. Then over here, we can choose any of these apps that have increased consumption. And then you can, for example, restrict background activity. There are also such options as video battery saver, which you can also use, and the sleep standby optimization, which is actually enabled by default. And of course, you can just make sure that it is enabled. If you want to use power saving mode automatically, then you can set it up in here. We can also automatically turn on dark mode as well. Now, besides these options that I had shown you, another thing that I have to mention is, of course, the usage of certain features such as Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, mobile data, location, and NFC, and probably some more. What I mean by that is that naturally these options, these features use the battery quite a bit. So in order to save the battery, you can, for example, disable Bluetooth whenever you do not really need to use it. So if you don't have any Bluetooth device connected to your phone, there's really no need to actually have Bluetooth enabled. So you can turn it off until you actually need to use it. Same can be said about Wi-Fi. If you don't have connection, if you don't have Wi-Fi network available right now, if you don't really use Wi-Fi, then you can turn it off until you can actually use it again. And instead you can use mobile data, or of course the other way around. Same with location and NFC, of course. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, leave a like and subscribe.